Okay, so have you ever like completely frozen up when someone asks you to like talk about yourself?
Oh, yeah, totally. I think we've all been there.
Right. It's like that dreaded tell me about yourself question can throw anyone off.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's exactly what we're diving into today, the art of the self-introduction, and we've got some really cool source material to guide us.
Yeah, a bunch of expert advice plus a real-life conversation we can, like, pick apart.
Love it. So this deep dive is all about helping you ditch those awkward moments and just totally own any room you walk into.
Yeah, mastering this is like having a secret weapon.
Definitely. So let's jump right in. Our source material kicks off with this conversation between Tom and Emma, right? They're meeting for the first time.
Yeah, and they absolutely nail the intro. Like, they go way beyond just saying their name and what they do.
Okay, so break it down. What did they do so well?
Well, they found ways to bring in their hobbies, what they're good at, even a funny story, just these personal things that make them stand out.
Right. I remember that story from the source material. It was about like a disastrous pizza making attempt.
Yeah, exactly. Like, would you rather talk to someone who just says, "Hi, I'm John, an accountant," or someone who says, "Hi, I'm John. I spend my days crunching numbers, but my real passion is restoring vintage motorcycles. Just don't ask me about the time I set my garage on fire."
Definitely the motorcycle guy, hands down.
Right. It's those little stories that make you memorable.
Totally. So it's all about making a connection, right?
Exactly. And stories are like a superpower for that.
Makes sense. But I guess it's not just about throwing any random story out there, right?
You got it. It's got to be a story that reveals something interesting or unique about you, something that makes people want to know more.
Okay, I'm with you. So our source material actually lays out this whole introduction process in steps, and it starts with the basics, name, age, location.
Right. It seems super simple, but it kind of sets the stage.
It's like giving people a starting point, I guess.
Right. Exactly. And even those basic things can be interesting. Instead of just saying, "I'm from Chicago," you could say, "I'm originally from a small town in Vermont, but I recently moved to the bustling city of Chicago."
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
It's like we're already telling a story.
Yeah.
So after the basics, the material says occupation or student status. How does that factor into making a good impression?
Well, it gives people context, right? Like,
Yeah.
it helps them understand where you're at in life and maybe even find common ground.
Okay, that makes sense. Like if you're both students, boom, instant connection.
Exactly.
Or even if you're in totally different fields, it's like an invitation to learn something new.
Exactly.
And then comes the fun stuff. Hobbies.
Yeah,
Tom and Emma really brought this to life in the source material.
they did. They talked about basketball movies, baking, even reading novels.
It's like they gave us a peek into their personalities, beyond just work or school.
Right. And that's what makes hobbies so great for introductions. They show you're a well-rounded person.
Plus, it opens up so many conversations. Like if someone says they love baking, I might ask about their favorite recipe or if they've ever made a croquembouche.
Totally. It's like a conversational goldmine.
Oh, okay. So we've covered the basics, occupation, hobbies. Now, what about strengths? This feels a bit trickier. How do we share those without sounding like we're bragging?
Yeah, it's all about how you frame it. Instead of listing adjectives, focus on how your strengths help others or contribute to your success.
Okay, so instead of I'm highly organized, it's more like my organizational skills have helped me manage complex projects and meet deadlines.
Exactly. It's showing, not telling.
I like that. The source material had some good examples of this too. Tom, the graphic designer, talked about being patient, which is super important in his job. And Emma, the teacher, highlighted her positivity, which is huge when you're working with kids.
Right, exactly. They connected their strengths to what they do.
And now for like the cherry on top storytelling.
Yeah.
We already touched on Tom's pizza disaster from the source material, but the material really stresses how a good story can make you stand out.
Stories make you memorable because they connect with people emotionally. Like, think about it. When you're listening to someone, are you more drawn to a bunch of facts or a story that makes you feel something?
That's a story for sure. It's like you're right there living it with them.
Exactly. And you can do that in your introduction, too. Choose a story that shows your personality, your values.
So we've gone from basic info to hobbies, strengths, even storytelling. This is way more than just, hi, I'm so-and-so.
Right.
But how do we make sure we actually remember all this when we're in the moment?
Practice, practice, practice.
So like standing in front of the mirror, giving our intro to the dog, maybe recording ourselves.
Exactly. The more you do it, the more natural it'll become.
So we're basically training ourselves to be smooth and confident.
Exactly. And you know what else the material says? Pay attention to how other people introduce themselves.
Oh yeah, like steal all their best moves.
Exactly. It's free research. You can learn so much just by listening.
I like that free research. Thinking back to Tom and Emma, it struck me how they weren't just waiting for their turn to talk. They were actually listening to each other.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Introductions are a two-way street. It's not just about delivering your spiel. You got to be engaged.
Like when Tom mentioned being a graphic designer, Emma didn't just say, "Oh, that's cool." She asked him what kind of design he does and what he finds rewarding about it.
Exactly. She was actively listening.
So it's not just what we say about ourselves, but how we react to what the other person is saying.
It's like a tennis match. You're both hitting the ball back and forth.
Oh, I love that analogy. Okay, so this brings us to another big point from the source material. Being adaptable.
Yeah.
Because not all introductions are the same, right?
Right. It's like having different outfits for different occasions.
Okay, so how do we adjust our intro to fit the situation?
Well, first think about how formal it is. Like at a friend's barbecue, you can be super casual.
But at a job interview, we'd want to be a bit more professional.
Right. In those settings, keep it brief. Focus on your skills, what you bring to the table.
Like we're sending a signal that we're serious and ready to work.
Exactly. And your clothes should match the situation too. You wouldn't wear a suit to a barbecue.
Unless you're going for that super ironic look.
Maybe. But yeah, appearance is part of the first impression.
Okay, so the material also talks about being aware of your audience. Like, who are you talking to? What are their interests?
It's like before you even open your mouth, you got to ask yourself, what do I want these people to know about me? What impression do I want to make?
So it's all about strategy.
Yeah. If you're networking for a job, you'll want to highlight your skills. If you're trying to make friends, you might focus on shared hobbies.
This reminds me of when I was at a conference and met someone who worked in my dream industry. I knew I had to make a good impression, so I talked about my passion for their field and how my skills could help their company.
Perfect example. You tailored your introduction to your goal.
And it worked. We had a great conversation, and they even connected with me on LinkedIn.
See, it's all about being intentional. The best introductions are the ones that are carefully planned.
So it's like we're becoming social chameleons.
Kinda. But beyond just adapting to the situation, the material talks about the fundamentals of a strong introduction.
Okay, so let's get back to basics. What are those essential elements?
Number one, authenticity. Just be yourself.
So ditch the canned responses and let our personalities shine.
Exactly. People connect with realness.
Because at the end of the day, we're all just humans, right?
Right. And don't be afraid to be a little vulnerable too. Sharing a story about a time you messed up can make you more relatable.
Like saying, hey, I'm not perfect.
Exactly. It builds trust.
I'm starting to see how all this fits together. Authenticity, vulnerability, connection. It's more than just exchanging information.
It's about creating a shared experience.
Okay, so another key element the material talks about is confidence.
Yes.
But what if we don't feel confident? I mean, introductions can be nerve-wracking.
I get it. We all get nervous sometimes, but confidence isn't about being arrogant. It's about believing in yourself.
So how do we cultivate that belief, especially when we're feeling anxious?
Practice is key. The more you practice your introduction, the more confident you'll become.
It's like learning a dance move. At first, it's awkward, but with practice, it becomes smooth.
Exactly. And remember, it's okay to be nervous. It means you care.
But we don't have to let those nerves control us.
Right. Instead of trying to suppress them, reframe them as excitement.
Like, I'm excited to meet new people.
Exactly. It's a mindset shift.
Instead of seeing introductions as a test, we can see them as a chance to connect.
And the source material also highlights body language. Stand tall, make eye contact, smile. These things project confidence.
Like our body is saying, I'm happy to be here.
Exactly. And remember, the other person is probably nervous too. So by being confident, you can help put them at ease.
This is so cool. It's like we're learning how to master the art of connection.
That's a great way to put it. Introductions are the gateway to relationships.
This deep dive has been amazing. It's changed how I think about introductions.
It's not just about reciting information. It's about building a bridge.
And we can't forget Tom and Emma. They showed us the power of sharing personal details, asking questions, being vulnerable.
They were masters of connection. And it all started with a simple introduction. Okay, so now let's talk about the lasting impression.
Okay, the lasting impression. This feels like where the magic really happens, you know?
Yeah, it's what makes people remember you. Like, did they just meet someone or did they actually connect with someone?
Right, so how do we make sure those first encounters really count?
Well, think back to Tom and Emma. They ended their conversation on such a high note, you know?
Yeah, they said how much they enjoyed talking and learning about each other's passions.
Exactly. It felt so genuine. Like I was watching a friendship start right there.
Totally. So it's not just about what we say during the introduction, but also how we leave people feeling afterward.
It's like the finishing touch on a painting.
I love that.
Like,
Okay, so how do we make sure we're leaving that positive, memorable mark?
one way is through genuine compliments. Like, if you admire something about the person, tell them.
But the material says to be specific with our praise.
Yeah, instead of just saying, you're a great artist, you could say, I was really drawn to the use of light and shadow in your latest piece. It's so captivating.
It's like taking it from a generic compliment to a heartfelt observation.
Exactly. And remember, a genuine smile can go a long way too.
It's like a universal welcome sign.
And of course, active listening is key throughout the whole conversation, not just the introduction.
It's like we're saying, I see you, I hear you, I value you.
Right. And as you're wrapping up, express gratitude for the interaction. A simple, it was great meeting you, can go a long way.
It's like closing the book on a great chapter, but leaving them wanting more.
Exactly. And if it feels right, offer a follow-up, like connecting on LinkedIn or grabbing coffee.
It shows you're invested in building a relationship.
Exactly. So to wrap up this deep dive, remember, the art of self-introduction is a journey. It's something you'll keep refining.
And we've learned so much from this material. The key takeaways are be authentic, be confident, tell your story, and be adaptable.
Right. And remember those amazing examples from Tom and Emma. They showed us the power of vulnerability and genuine connection.
It's like they gave us a roadmap for turning those awkward moments into opportunities.
Exactly. So go out there, practice your intro, and have fun connecting with people.
That's it for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.